Now we are going to see about membrane transport. So we all know that all the biological membranes are made up of semi-permeable membrane or selectively permeable. It selects its own contents from outside to inside or inside to outside. So the very two basic types of the membrane transport is active transport and passive transport. So active, A for A, which needs ATP or energy currency to take the contents from lower concentration to higher concentration, which we also refer to as uphill transport. Passive transport, which doesn't need any ATP. So from higher concentration to lower concentration, the contents will move on. So we also call it as downhill transport. Now the types of active transport are, so carrier proteins. When any contents are attached to the carrier proteins and being transported to inside, which follows the rule of lower concentration to higher concentration, which needs an ATP. As well as one, we have one more type, endocytosis, taking the contents inside to the cell from an outside. We call it as endocytosis. In turn, we have the two types, phagocytosis, which means cell eating, pinocytosis, which means cell drinking. In phagocytosis, we use it to take the non-diffusible contents and we are converted into diffusible inside, which we also call cell digestion. And pinocytosis, which means cell drinking. So diffusible contents will take inside the cell. And sodium and potassium pump will best explains about the active transport. So this we discuss in the next video about very clear understanding about sodium and potassium pump and how the excitation, contractibility, conduction, everything will takes place with this. And next, types of passive transport. Diffusion. So diffusion also, which follows the rule of higher concentration to lower concentration and no need of any ATP. So water, lipids, lipid soluble contents, gases all together will pass through diffusion only. Facilitated diffusion. So for example, sugars, amino acids and ions, which are huge molecular, which couldn't cross the membrane. So it needs a special channels to pass through this. So that channels we call it as protein channels. So we are facilitating the diffusion. Because of that, we call it as facilitated diffusion. And finally, the best explanation for the passive transport is carbon dioxide and oxygen diffusion in our body, which is transported by a process of diffusion. So this also best explains about passive transport. So in the next topic, we are going to discuss about osmosis as well as sodium and potassium pump. Thank you very much.